Hello, guys, and welcome back to As a Sports. And today I'm going to be giving my predictions and my thoughts heading into this Anzac round eight of the 2023 season. Um, yeah, it's great, good to be back. Yeah, sorry guys, I've been a bit busy the last few weeks with and work and stuff like that, so that's why I haven't been uploading as of late. Sorry for that. But I should hopefully be getting back into it now. Um, so yeah, keep tuned and remember, make sure to like and subscribe um, if you're enjoying my content. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. And let's get into it. The competition's starting to slowly open up now. Like we're starting to get a gauge on teams and where they truly are and where they aren't and stuff like that. And the competition's starting to slowly get sorted out. But there's still that middle section where teams are a bit hard to read at the moment. Um, but yeah, let's get into the week. So, my predictions for this week. So, the first Thursday, first game of the week, to start the Anzac round, we have the Bunnies taking on the Panthers. They're in Sydney at a core stadium. This should be a good game here between these two. When these two played earlier in the year, it was a very good game. It was a tight one, which Penrith won. The Bunnies were in the game though too for a while. Um, so the changes for this week for the Bunnies, we have Isaac Thompson is back in on the wing, coming back. So Milne is pushed out, and Colin Tungy suffered that injury, so he's out for 6 to 8 weeks, as they were saying. And Michael Cheekham is back into the squad there. And for Penrith, um, Liam Martin is out again, unfortunately, because of that hamstring. Again, he's done it again now. Um, really bad for him, but hopefully he can come back from it. And Sorensen comes back into the second row, and Lindsay Smith goes onto the bench. So relatively unchanged Panthers side there, and the Bunnies relatively unchanged apart from Isaac Thompson coming back and Cheekham coming in for Kalamatangi. That's a big loss though. Kalamatangi, he's very good for them. Um, so yeah, this is going to be a tough one to call again because both these teams, this is a good rivalry between these two. Um, I think personally, I think Penrith will just be a little bit too strong here for the Bunnies. I'm going to go Penrith 1-12 here. I just think Penrith are a little bit, going to be a little bit too strong, especially with Kolomatangi out. He's massive out. Um, Liam Martin's out too, but the Penrith Panthers are just really starting to find their groove now. Although they were a bit disappointing in patches against the Knights, but I think they are slowly starting to find their feet, and especially with Nathan Cleary and Jeremy Luai now being challenged by Brad Fittler with Origin coming around the corner. How exciting is that? Um, and all that talk at the moment. Yeah, so with the Origin coming around, Nathan Cleary and Jeremy Luai have been encouraged to up their game a bit. So I think they're going to prove a point to Brad Fittler, and I think they're going to put on a show against the Bunnies. So the next game, we have Parramatta Eels taking on the Brisbane Broncos, two clubs who are doing well. Eels are starting to find their feet sort of now, and the Broncos have been going pretty well most of the year. Apart from that one hiccup against the Raiders, they've done pretty well. Um, Although I'll get into later my thoughts on the Saturday's game when they played us, the Titans, but I'll get onto that in a minute. So for the Eels, they played very well on the weekend. So they get Josh Hodgson back, who's a late withdrawal last week from an illness. So that pushes young Braden Hands back onto the bench, who I thought was really good for them. And Matt Dury is also back onto the bench for the Parramatta Eels for Makatoa there. So yeah, really strong Eels team there, relatively unchanged. And for the Broncos, Corey Oates is back after his jaw injury back in round two. So that pushes Jesse Arthurs out. And Flegler's back after his HIA. And that pushes Corey Jensen back onto the bench. So again, really strong Broncos team. This is being played in Darwin. So it's the Parramatta Eagles home game. This is very tough. The Broncos have struggled up in Darwin the last few times. They've played up there, and the Eels seem to win a lot in Darwin. So you know what? I'm gonna call an upset for this week. I think the Eels get the job done against the Broncos. I think the Eels win 1-12. I think they're starting to find their feet now. The Eels, and So this is now we're going to. So when they faced us, the Titans last week, they were pretty bad for the first half. The Titans, we were all over them. We outmuscled them absolutely. It was only in the second half, that last sort of half an hour, 25 minutes, just before Tino went off, when they started to get on top of us. But apart from that, they were going to get beaten last week again. But they Reese Walsh pretty much single handedly helped them out of it, and they got a few lucky charge downs. Um, but yeah, I think I'm going to call an upset here. I'm going to go Parramatta 1-12. I really do think they can get the job done up there. And as I said before, Brisbane seem to struggle up there for some reason, because it is very hot and steamy conditions up there in Darwin. So it's going to be very tough um, for the Broncos and both sides up there. But I think the Eels have a really good record up there. So I'm going Eels 1-12. But should be a cracker of a game again. Another great game. Now on to the next game. First game on a Saturday. This is a 5:30 game today. On Saturday, the Doggies play the Sharks. At 5:30 on Saturday. So again, the Doggies were pretty disappointing on the weekend, but they had quite a few injuries go against them. And the Sharkies, Nico Hines, just showing how classy he is, and he definitely deserves to be in that Blues team somewhere. Where though, I don't really know, but he deserves to be there somewhere. Either the bench or the six. Either way, he should be in there somewhere. Um, and yeah, they're just going very well at the moment now. The Sharks are starting to find their feet too. Um, very much like the Panthers, they're starting to find their feet, and the Eels. Those three sort of clubs are in the same position. They started a bit slow, but they're starting to find their feet. So for the Doggies, unfortunately, Carraz is out. He did his MCL in the game. He came off really early. That sort of hurt them a little bit, I think, with Declan Casey coming in onto the wing there. And Jackson Torpany is out this week, with Jaden Okunbor going back to the bench. And the Sharks are unchanged from last week's winning squad. So, yeah, again, this is played in Sydney. I really, I really think the Sharks are now starting to find their feet, and I think they're going to get the job done against the Doggies here. I think I'm going to go Sharks 13 plus. I think Nico Hines is going to put on a masterclass, and he's going to show Fittler why he needs to be picked in this blue squad. And he really does. Like, he needs to be picked on form. Like, he really does. He deserves to be in that Blues team somewhere. Um, Obviously, with Jack Whiten's shock announcement, who that's it as well. The Raiders have a bye this week, so they have 3 2 points. But yeah, Jack White, I was very shocked to hear that he's retiring from rep duty. That's unheard of. With the way he is and he's playing, I don't know why he would retire. Whatever that reason is, he had a pretty good rep career. Um, I'm pretty sure he won a state of origin. He won kangaroo tours, so he's done well. But yeah, I was just very shocked to hear that. Um, yeah, so interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, I think Sharks too good in this one, 13 plus. Next game on the Saturday, so 7:30 game on the Saturday, up there at North Queensland Country Bank Stadium. You got the Cowboys taking on the Knights. This should actually be a really good game. The Cowboys have been hit by more injuries now. So Jason Tamalolo is out this week. That's a big out, actually, but he is replaced by Ruben Cotter. So that's sort of evened out there a little bit. And Jack Krzyzewski is into the second row, and the rest of the Cowboys squad is unchanged. So yeah, pretty strong Cowboys side there still. They've been really disappointing this year. They're really struggling. This could potentially be the game that gets them going in 2023, but I'm not 100% sure yet, because the Knights, they've just been that team this year where they're just grinding out. They almost beat Penrith last week, and if I was being honest, I think they probably deserved to win last week. I really do. Um, I think from watching the game and seeing it, they got a little bit unlucky. Cleary just showed his class in the end, but I think Newcastle definitely deserved to win that game against Penrith. They were very good and stuck it to them the whole game pretty much, apart from a few fade out moments. But apart from that, they were really good. And for the Knights, they've got some massive back ends this week. So Brody Jones is out, with Daniel Saifidi coming back from that suspension for that hit on Jock Madden a few weeks ago now. So he's a massive boost to their pack, especially the Knights. Again, they're a club that's had a very poor record up there in North Queensland, but again, I'm not really a guy who brings in records too much, or I try not to, because they don't necessarily mean anything. But yeah, Daniel Saifidi is a massive boost to their pack. So Phoenix Crossland, goes back to the 9 jersey, with obviously Kalen Ponga being the massive return of the round. He's back for the Knights there, back to the number 6. I would have thought they would have moved him back to fullback to preserve him to start with, and put Lockie Miller into the 6 until, or potentially even put Gamble to 6 because he's working really well there the last few weeks. Um, Jackson Hastings 7, put KP to fullback, and then put Lockie Miller onto the bench. But I think Lockie Miller is just too strong of a player to leave on the bench. Like, you'd want him playing the whole game. So I think it's smart what they've done, with Gamble being. So Gamble has gone onto the bench, as I just mentioned there. So again, that's a really strong Knights team now, pretty much back to their full strength. So obviously that means Jack Johns is now out of the squad, who's actually done a pretty good job since he's been in there. Um, so yeah, this is a very tough game to call this one. This really could be another upset game. Um, I think the Knights have been a team that's been really solid this year, and the Cowboys have been really disappointing. And this is the game they need to win if they want to get their season back on track and push back towards the top 8. Because at this rate, if they lose this game, they're gonna make it really hard on themselves to get back to that 8 spot. I think they're gonna give themselves too many games to win, that they'll need to win. So, this is a really tough one. Again, it's played up at North Queensland Country Bank Stadium, but they've been beaten there. They've only won once there this year, and that was against the Raiders. So yeah, this is a really tough one. Um, I think the Cowboys just 1-12. I think this is going to be a very close game. Cowboys just, I don't know. I just feel like the Cowboys need to get a win, and this is the game that they can win. Um, Again, as shown by history, but I don't believe that. But this is a game they can win. They're at home. They're gonna have a sold out crowd, no doubt, for Anzac round. So this is a round they need to get up for. Ruben Cotter's back. He's massive for them. Their pack's massive. I think it's, if they're to win, they have to beat the Newcastle pack, who do have a little invulnerabilities in there, but they need to get the win there. So I'm going to go Cowboys 1-12. The next game, we have the Dolphins taking on my team, the Gold Coast Titans. I mean, unfortunate loss last week, but I'll take it. We still had some good signs there last week. Unfortunately, the scoreline didn't reflect the game in the end, but we did have a lot of good moments in that game. And yeah, like guys like Mo Fodawaker, he's a machine, man. He's getting back to his form that got him into Origin. So I really do believe he's a massive chance to play Origin this year. I really do. Again, Tino's been outstanding. Unfortunately, he did get binned, but again, my thoughts on that sin bin, it was not a sin bin at all. Again, I know that probably shows my bias towards the Titans, but watching it live, and I'm trying to take my Titans hat off too while I was watching it, and I was like, could I argue that's a sin bin? Not really. Like, I think it was really harsh call. But yeah, that's sort of when the game ballooned out when he went off. But yeah, other than that, we took it to a more games, so I was really happy that we took it to the current leaders of the comp, the Broncos. Again, it was only really Reece Walsh that separated us, team wise and score wise. Other than that, it was pretty even. But yeah, enough about us. So on the Dolphins, yeah, I thought they were pretty good. On the weekend, they had some brain phase. Like, if UNH can pass to Asako on the wing there, they would have scored, and they probably would have gone into the sheds 20-6 at halftime against the Bunnies, and that would have put a lot of pressure on the Bunnies. But they bombed that try, and then the Bunnies just came back in the second half and absolutely turned it on, and just absolutely blew them off the park in the end. And Kenny Bromwich being sent off obviously didn't help. But yeah, so onto that now. So Kenny Bromwich obviously is out with that high shot on pretty sure it's Tane Milne. Now, Felix Kafusi is back in, so he's a massive replacement for them. The way he started the year for them is why they kept winning so much. So he's a massive back in, actually. That's a great inclusion for them. Yeah. Now for us, the Titans, so Shoppy unfortunately is injured at the moment. Again, another injury is getting us again this year, like they do most years. Again, no excuse, but again, injuries. So Sammy goes back to the centers, who's been absolutely immense this year. He's been great, one of our best players. Jojo is back onto the wing after his strong performance at Q Cup, so he's back on the wing there. And Thomas McKaylee, who we signed recently, back from the Super League, uh, has come to the the English League. Sorry, British Super League. I can't remember. Thomas McKaylee is back to the Titans, where he played some of his juniors, so he's back on to the bench for us, debuting there. He's a massive buy actually, in the forwards there for us. Um, Another big body in the middle there, which I think we need at times. Um, but yeah, so yeah, that's on the bench there. And Cleese Haas also comes onto the bench to replace Isaac Fasil Malawi there. So again, and AJ Brimson has also been named in the reserves, and he's given a big chance to play this week. So I would not be surprised if at the latest he gets brought into the team. Um, but yeah, where he would play, I have no idea because JC's been doing a really good job since AJ's been out. So interesting to see what Holbrook does there. But yeah, obviously back my team in. I really do think we can get the job done against the Dolphins. I'm gonna go Titans 1-12. I think we'll be a little bit too good for the Dolphins. This is going to be one of those grinding games. I feel the Dolphins are just going to do what they did against the Bunnies and just grind and grind. And when we have the ball, I just feel like we're going to um, turn it on attacking wise. I think Kieran Foran's going to have a massive game. He's starting to find his feet now, sort of, in the Titans colours there. I think Dave Fafita, who's had another great year, he's having a great year thus far. Tino's going to have a big game. Um, and Mo Fodawaker again, he's going to be, he's been a machine for us this year. He's going to continue, I think. And I really do think he's a big chance to play Origin this year. And I think he does deserve a call up, the way he's been playing. And so does Dave Fafita too. Um, so yeah, again, going to be a close game this one, but I think the Titans get the job done 1-12. So yeah, go you mighty Titans. Uh, okay, guys. So 3 games left. So we got the Tigers taking on Manly on the Sunday. So Dolphins Titans game. Sorry, I should have mentioned is the first Sunday game at 2 o'clock. Played at Suncorp, obviously the Dolphins' second home ground. Um, yeah, so Tigers play Manly. This is going to be the 4 o'clock game on the Sunday. Um, so yeah, obviously the Tigers coming off the bye, so their first 2 points of the year. Um, yeah, so interesting to see what their team looks like here. So we got Buller who's in. Okay, I've never heard his name before, so it looks like he's making his debut. Um, and Charlie Staines, who I thought had a really good game before the bye against Parramatta. He was the player of the game for them, I think. Unfortunately, made that error at the end, which cost them the chance to go on and have a chance to win it. But he was really good for them all game. He was really threatening. So he goes back to the wing, which pushes Asukapoa onto the centers to replace Brent Naden, who also went down after he scored. Tough luck again for the Tigers there. And then Brandon Wakeham is back in to the squad there with replacing Adam Dewey, who is unfortunately out due to an injury. Again, really sorry for the dude for that. The tough injury, and yeah, poor dude just can't get a break. Neither can the Tigers at the moment. Um, and obviously Dane Laurie is also back onto the bench. That's interesting. Why Dane Laurie is not at fullback there? I really think he should be, because this Buller kid, I've never heard of him. He has no experience, and Dane Laurie, who's had experience and is probably one of their better players, um, is sitting on the bench. Interesting. Um, but yeah, very interesting to see that squad there. But apart from that, the rest is unchanged. For Manly, Kyo Weeks is out off the bench, and Fainu comes in. And Bullimore is also off the bench now, with Talangi out. Unfortunately, that due to that injury on the weekend against the Storm. And Ruben Garrick is back in. He's a massive back in, especially goal kicking wise. with that Vega winger. Oh, what a winger he was. He absolutely smashed everybody um, on the weekend against Melbourne. Um, he's a bit of an out, but he's a very strong winger. And then Josh Schuster has been named. Whether he plays or not, I'm not too sure, but he has been named, with obviously Cooper Johns being then pushed out. Again, I don't really think this is going to be close. I think Manly 13 plus, losing Dewey, Tigers. I don't see much threat for them anymore. They'll put up a fight. I'm not worried about them putting up a fight. I know they'll put up a fight, but Manly are just going to absolutely outclass them. I'm going to go Manly 13 plus. I really think Manly are going to be too strong in this one. I don't see a win here for the Tigers, especially now with Dewey gone and Naden, one of their starting centers, gone as well. And you're playing inexperienced kid at fullback. Is I don't think the smartest idea. So uh, I think the tough luck for the Tigers continues. Now on to the Anzac Day games. So the first one, the traditional Roosters and Dragons game. Quite a few changes in this game. Interesting. So Nat Butcher is out. I'm pretty sure he's out due to suspension. With Angus Crichton coming back, great to hear. Great to hear Angus Crichton coming back. I saw his return on the weekend. In the For the Roosters New South Wales Cup side, he played pretty well there. I saw, and he looked really good coming back, and great to see that he's got over his mental health problems. And he's going to be back for the Roosters. So that's great news for him and the club there. And I'm just can't wait to see him play back for them. So that pushes. And with other news, so Paul Momirovski is back for them in the centers. That's a massive get because they've been really poor defensively in the centers the last few weeks. And he's a massive boost, Paul Momirovski, which pushes Drew Hutchinson back onto the bench. And big interesting call I heard this morning, with Joey Manu going to the six, with Sam Walker being pushed out of the squad completely, not even going back to the bench. That's a massive call. Um, Obviously, Sam Walker's really struggled this year. Defensively, he's been really poor. And attacking wise, he hasn't been as good as he had in the past. So that's really tough on him, but I think this is only going to make him better. So again, yes, it's a really tough call on him, but this is what's going to make him a better player. Um, but yeah, Manu in the six I think it's a very good move because Manu is not touching the ball enough at the moment. And the Roosters, they're just playing frantic at the moment. Like they're just constantly ill-disciplined, giving away penalties and ruck infringements and etc. And they're just hurting themselves. Like they're a very good side. They have one of the better sides in the comp, and they're just hurting themselves with ill discipline and stupid penalties and ruck infringements they give away. Especially against the Sharks. They gave away so many ruck infringements and so many that weren't also given that should have been. But again, like they still have moments where they play well, like guys like Lindsay Collins, who's been massive this year for them. He's been absolutely massive this year. And guys like Tedesco, who's all class. He's been quite quiet this year, but he's normally a very good player. And you got guys like Brandon Smith, who when he's on it doesn't make rash decisions. He's been very good for them as well. But yeah, they've been a bit frantic at times this year, and yeah, they just need to sort of settle it down a bit, and they can still play with aggression, but control it. Because at the moment, it does kind of feel like to me that they're still playing with too much aggression at this stage, which is kind of costing them at times. Then we got Stili Tupanua, who's also a massive back in. Last year, he was massive for them. So the Roosters are starting to get back to full strength, which pushes Nahafu White back out of the side. So again, pretty strong Roosters team here now. So they've got no excuses now. That's a really strong team. Manu to six. I'm interested to see how he goes there. And yeah, I want to see a bit more from Teddy. He's been pretty quiet. Apart from he was starting to come into his own against the Eels, but then unfortunately he got that head knock, which then pushed him out. But I think he'll get back to it sooner rather than later there, Teddy. For the Dragons, Jaden Sewer is the only out there, with Jack Bird being pushed onto the second row. Murdoch Masilla is also back into the squad. DeBellin is into lock, and Molo comes onto the bench. So again, pretty unchanged Dragons team. The Dragons. Where do I go for the Dragons? They've been really poor. They've been really poor. Like against us a couple of weeks ago now. So against us, the Titans, um, they probably should have won that game. But they kind of threw it in the end. And last week against the Raiders, Ben Hunt had a play where the Raiders were down to 12 men and they just did two hit ups through the middle when they were only 2 points behind or 4 points behind or whatever it was. So, yeah, really, really don't know about the Dragons at the moment. They're really struggling. Um, if there is a game that could get the Dragons back up and get them back into form, this is the game for them. Like they're coming up against the Roosters, um, who have guys coming back who haven't been in for a bit, who need to get back into the flow of things. Whereas the Dragons, to be fair, are relatively unchanged, apart from Jaden Sewer, who's out. Um, Apart from that, we're relatively unchanged. Um, but yeah, I think the Roosters, I think they're going to prove their critics wrong, and I think the Roosters will put on a show here, and I think they're going to win 13 plus in this one. I really do. Um, Again, the Dragons, they're just really struggling at the moment. Like they have a team that should be doing a lot better than they are, sort of thing. Like they've got a decent enough of a forward pack. And they've got Ben Hunt, who's a quality halfback, Tyrell Sloan, who's a very promising fullback. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know. They just can't seem to get it together. And again, their discipline's really poor. Like not as bad as the Roosters, but it's pretty poor too. Um, but yeah, Roosters 13 plus for me. I think they'll just be too strong here. And the Dragons have been really disappointing this year. Onto the next one here. We got the last game of the Anzac Day, which again is another traditional game. Melbourne Storm taking on New Zealand Warriors. So for the Storm, Tui Kamikamaker is out due to his late hit on DCE on the weekend. Really dumb tackle that was. But he's lucky because Big Nelson Asofa Solomona is back. That's massive for the Storm. They've really missed him the last few weeks. Although they have been winning without him, he's a massive boost um, and a massive part of their pack for them there. So he's going to be starting. Nick Meaney is back after he was a late withdrawal last week. So he's back to the fullback, and Munster is back to 6. Otherwise, they're unchanged from the side that lost to Manly. For the Warriors, Nakora, Murder Niokore, is back into the second row, and that pushes Josh Curran back onto the bench. So again, Warriors, I've been really impressed with them this year. I really have. The way they've been just able to win games that they probably shouldn't, um, and the way they play is just so good to watch. And they're just playing a lot more disciplined than, again, as I've been stating over the last few. They're playing a lot more discipline than they had in the past, and that's why they're winning so many more games. Like over the years, Warriors have been always been a side where you look at and go, look at their team on paper. Like what a great team that is on paper, but they constantly keep losing because they kept playing too frantic of football, where they would always play high risk footy with too many offloads, and they would never go to hand, or if they did offload, maybe they might win maybe 3 or 4 games here and there where that works for them. But most of the time, they lost games because they just were too frantic and their discipline was pretty poor. But they've really fixed those two up, and now they're really a really dangerous team coming up. So this is a dangerous game for the Storm, but I think the Storm will be a little bit too strong in this one. I'm going to go Storm 1-12. I think they will bounce back after that pretty poor performance against Manly. The thing is, though, against Manly, they were in it for a while there. It was a bit of a weird old game because there was just constantly stoppages for players being penalised and sin binned and put on report and etc. And it was a rivalry game, so there's always going to be a bit of biff in it. But yeah, I think the Storm just get the job done here, 1-12. But yeah, this is going to should be a really good game. Both teams are in pretty good form at the moment, so should be a cracker. So again, to go over my predictions to finish off the Anzac round, we got the Panthers 1-12 against the Bunnies. The Eels 1-12 to upset the Broncos. That could be wrong for me. And I've got the Sharkies getting the job done 13 plus against the Doggies. Then I've got the Cowboys beating the Knights 1-12. Again, that game could go either way. The Titans to get the job done 1-12 over the Dolphins, up the Gold Coast. And Manly to get the job done 13 plus against the Tigers. Roosters 1-13 plus over the Dragons, and the Storm 1-12 over the Warriors. So again, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, let's look forward to another great week of footy. And yeah, hope you all have a good Anzac Day. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. And remember, up the mighty Titans. See you guys.